I'm an avid fan of Celebrity Cruises, and in fact, I usually call them my preferred cruise line. I've now sailed on 7 cruises with the brand, but I just got off of a cruise that really shocked me. It really surprised me, and I couldn't wait to make this video to tell you about it. So this is my very honest review of my cruise on board the Celebrity Solstice. Hello everyone, my name is Zach. I am the Traveling Man, and if you've watched the channel before, thank you again for coming back. I appreciate it. Go down below, give me a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, I invite you to go down below right now and subscribe to the channel. But if you've watched my videos before, you know that I love Celebrity Cruises. I have, like I said, been on 7 cruises with them now, and I often talk about how much I love the brand. I love the food that they have on board. I love their exceptional service. And most of all, I love their Edge series of ships, and I've done many videos on those. I've called Celebrity Apex the best ship at sea. And I was really having a hard time thinking I ever could enjoy an older Celebrity cruise ship. I just sailed on Celebrity Summit recently. I sailed on Celebrity Equinox last summer, and that wasn't the best experience. I did put out a review video of that, and I'll link that here so you can go back and see that. So when I booked this trip on Celebrity Solstice, I was a little hesitant. I was like, I don't think it's going to be my favorite cruise when I get off of it. I don't know that I'm going to have a great time. I knew the ship hadn't been revolutionized, which is Celebrity's way of saying renovated, because the cruise ship did come out in 2008, 2009, and they really haven't done any major overhaul or refit of the cruise ship since then, like they have done with some of their other ships. And in fact, the COVID-19 pandemic inhibited them so much that I don't even think there are plans to do any type of revolution on this ship for quite a while. So I was a bit skeptical. I was like, I'm going to see an older cruise ship. It's going to be run down. The food might not be that great. I know a lot of folks have been talking recently about some food problems with Celebrity, so I didn't have the highest of expectations. But hear me when I tell you, I was pleasantly surprised, and I just had one of the best cruise experiences in my 23 cruises on board Celebrity Solstice, and I was so excited to make this video to tell you about it. So if you've never watched one of my cruise review videos before, I'll tell you how we're going to do this. I have a 5 steps process, and I literally call it the steps process, where the S is for ship. We'll talk all about the ship, and I'll give you my critique of it. Then the T is for taste or food. We'll talk about how tasty the food was. And I'll also do a separate food review video too, so look for that to come out soon. The E is for entertainment, about all the shows and all the live entertainment around the ship. The P is for ports. The S is for service. So we're going to talk about all the components of the cruise, and we're going to kick things off with the S being for ship, of course. And the Celebrity Solstice was a fantastic cruise ship. And in fact, I'll just go ahead and spoil this right off the bat. I think she's one of my top 3 favorite cruise ships. Now, a lot of folks were following me on Instagram. And by the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you go and do that, because I do behind the scenes. I'm always showing what I'm doing on the ships as they happen in real time. But folks were messaging me when they were seeing what a great time I was having and how I was just gushing about the Celebrity Solstice. They were like, oh, is she better than Apex? Because they knew Apex was my favorite. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't say that. I'm not saying she's better than Apex, but I would say she might be better than some of the Apex's sisters, the Edge and beyond. One of my top 3 favorite cruise ships now, for sure, for many reasons. The biggest reason being that I was so pleasantly surprised at how well the ship had been maintained. Approaching 15 years old, hasn't been revolutionized, so I was like, this is going to have a gaudy appearance, it's going to look bad. When I sailed on Equinox, I did not like my stateroom. My stateroom was just kind of run down and ragged, but not so on Celebrity Solstice. When I first entered my stateroom, I went in and I was shocked at how great it looked. Even though it hasn't had the revolutionized appearance added to it yet, it was still a very clean. You could tell it had been very well maintained. Nothing was frayed. The carpet was in good condition. The couch was in good condition. The bed was comfortable. The balcony was beautiful. So I was very pleasantly surprised from the get-go. And then as I started walking around the ship, exploring the ship, I'm like, wow, this ship is beautiful. And before we had even set sail, I said it in my embarkation video. I'd only been on the ship about an hour and a half. I'm like, there's something very charming about this ship. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is. She just has an energy, a vibe to her. That you just feel it whenever you get on board and as you walk around the ship. She's not the latest, she's not the most modern ship, but she is a great feeling cruise ship, and that was very important, and that really set the tone for the cruise experience, because that initial surprise, that initial like, wow, this is a great ship, actually stayed with me throughout the entire cruise. The ship just felt like a premium cruise line ship. Everything was just so nicely done. Everything was laid out so nice. I just really love the Solstice. I could gush about it all day and tell you how great it was. There are a couple of things that I also critique under the ship header, one being the internet. And I was really interested in this cruise because I knew that Celebrity has recently been upgrading all their ships to the Starlink system. It's like a new satellite system of internet, and it's supposed to be a lot better, a lot faster. A lot of folks have been talking about it online. It's much faster than the old internet infrastructure that Celebrity had on a lot of their ships. So I was very excited to try that. And I will say, right off the bat, I was not impressed. The first day, embarkation day, we were in the Port of Los Angeles. That day, I had to keep my phone on cellular mode because, of course, we were still in port. I could still get cell service, but the internet was just so bad when I first turned it on. It would just keep dropping and dropping, so I finally cut it off. We finally headed out to sea, and I was like, things will improve. Things did not improve. It wasn't until the second day when things actually improved, and I had the premium internet, I will say, and it was blazing fast. Once the second day hit, all the way through the end of the cruise, really good internet service. But using Wi-Fi calling on the old system of internet with the premium package, I was able to make phone calls to places all over the world. I was in Israel last fall on a cruise ship, Celebrity Apex, and I was able to call anyone all over the world with Wi-Fi calling. However, on Starlink, Wi-Fi calling wasn't that great. It would work, but the person on the other end of the phone would sometimes be like, what? What did you say? The call dropped. You're very spotty. So I don't know what was up with that. The upload download speeds were a lot faster with Starlink, but Wi-Fi calling, it just sucked. So be aware of that. Make sure you have, FaceTime, maybe WhatsApp or Telegram. These other third-party apps that you might be able to use to make phone calls or video calls that will work better. I did use FaceTime audio a couple of times, and that worked much better than Wi-Fi calling. But just know if you depend on Wi-Fi calling on a cruise ship, may not be as great as it was under the old system now on Starlink. And while we're on the topic of internet, I will say that the basic internet package was not that great at all. Premium was much better, much more reliable, and faster. I had some friends I was selling with, they had the basic internet, and it was very slow. I saw the struggles that they had just trying to, load a picture on social media, or just to even open their cloud to see a video or something like that. So it was very, very slow, the basic internet package. So if you are going on Celebrity Solstice, or really any of the Celebrity ships under the Starlink, just know if you want to do any type of work, if you want to have the reliability of being able to make, FaceTime audio calls, maybe try a Wi-Fi call, you're going to need the premium internet package for just about any of those things. If you have the basic package, good luck even being able to load social media. So just keep that in mind. And if you do feel like you're going to be a little bit more internet intensive on your cruise, make sure you pay the extra. It's not that much more for the premium internet package so that you know you're going to be able to have the connectivity that you need throughout the course of your cruise. So to summarize all that, Celebrity Solstice is a fantastic cruise ship. And in fact, I've already been looking at itineraries for her in 24 and 25 because I want to sail on her again. I loved Celebrity Solstice so much. One of my top 3 favorite cruise ships in the entire world now. I would sail on her again in a heartbeat, and I can't wait to do so. So I'm going to give the ship a 4 out of a 5 rating. All right, up next is Tea for Taste. We're going to talk all about food, and I'd heard a lot of stories recently. A lot of people were saying I was on edge and it was not good food, or the food was very limited. And these are people that I trust, so I believe them. So I didn't know what to expect when I got on Solstice, but I was very mindful. Anytime I was in Ocean View, any of the restaurants, focus on the quality of the food, focus on the availability of the food. And I didn't really have any complaints. I didn't see anything lacking on Celebrity Solstice. In fact, I didn't have a bad meal the entire time. I have nothing to complain about when it comes to food. I was able to try a couple of the specialty dining opportunities. The first step being Le Petite Chef, which I had on the first night of the cruise. My only complaint, and it's not even really a complaint, it's just something to note, I didn't feel like the menu options, which is a preset menu. There's actually 2 preset menus you can choose from, but the main preset menu that follows the programming of the show, I went with that one, and I feel like it was a little bit weaker than some of the other Le Petite Chef menus I've seen on my other 2 experiences on the Equinox and the Apex. Murano was hands down the best meal that I had. That was my second specialty dining opportunity that I took, and it was a fantastic meal. The service was some of the best that I've ever had. My waiter was fantastic. And the food was just so delicious. I, of course, had to get the Murano lobster. I think that's why everyone goes. I did ask the waiter, I'm like, is this the most popular dish? Because it tastes like the most popular dish. He was like, yeah, actually it is. This is what folks get. It's one that they make there tableside. I think they actually prepare all of the main entrees tableside, so it's really cool. And I had such a fantastic server. He talked me through everything. He told me about how all the flavors work together, all the herbs and spices, how they sort of influence the taste. So it was just a really good dining experience, and it made me want to go back to Murano. I had gone to Murano on Equinox and didn't love it that much, but here on Solstice, I absolutely love Murano. The best meal I had all cruise long. I was also able to try Luminae during this cruise, thanks to some friends, and I had one dinner there. I don't have any clips from it because it was such a great dinner, but it was a really good meal, really great, exceptional service, which is what one would expect in a restaurant exclusive to those sweet guests, but Luminae was fantastic, and I'm very grateful that I got an opportunity to try it on the Solstice. I was Aqua Class this cruise, so that meant I got specialty access to Blue. Blue, of course, is that restaurant exclusive only to those guests staying in Aqua Class, and also to guests of the suite. They can actually come down to Blue and dine too if there's space available. However, we were pretty maxed out this cruise. We had over 300 people in Aqua Class, so Blue was busy every night of the cruise. There was not any time where you could go and be immediately sad. It just seemed like from the time they were open to the time they were closed, I went at all different times throughout the course of the cruise. It was always busy, but the service was good in there. They could be a little slow at times, but the food was always exceptional, as Blue always is. This was my third cruise having access to Blue, and I just really loved it. So I highly recommend, if you're on the fence about Aqua Class, do it just for Blue. That's what I tell everyone. I did have one bad experience in Blue though. Actually, probably my only bad experience with service the entire cruise. And that was one morning I went for breakfast. Actually, the first morning of the cruise, I went there for breakfast. I think the only morning I actually made it up in time for breakfast in Blue. And when I got there, I was sad, and someone brought me over coffee. And other than that, no one else came over. I had a menu. I was looking at the menu and I was waiting. You know, I was waiting maybe for some water. I was just drinking my coffee. I was waiting and waiting. I saw other tables were being sat all around me. The server was coming over. They were getting them water. They were taking their order. And I was just sitting, just waiting. I'm like, well, you know, maybe my server's not out here yet. They'll be out here in a minute. Finally, the table sat next to me that had been there for a while, and they were there when I sat down. They look over and said, why is no one waiting on you? You know, you've been sitting here longer than all these other tables. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to say anything. I think maybe they're just having a slow morning. They're like, maybe you should, you know, say something. And about that time, the server did finally come over, but I probably sat there a good 10 or 15 minutes, if not more, you know, waiting to be waited on, waiting for someone to come take my order, to give me some water. So service was quite slow there in Blue. And that's my only, you know, bad experience, I guess, with food the entire cruise. Otherwise, the food was great. I also took advantage of the Captain's Club breakfast several mornings, and that was really good there in Tuscan Grille. The best location on the ship to have a meal because it's sat right there in the very aft of the ship. You get to see the wake back behind you. Really good to have breakfast in there. Service was always fast. They would let me walk in and pick my seat wherever I wanted. So if you have access to the Captain's Club breakfast, if you're an elite or higher in the Captain's Club, highly recommend that you try that breakfast out sometime. And it is open later than Blue. One of my arguments about food on this ship is that it closes too early. You know, Blue for breakfast closes at 9 a.m. That's really early when you're on vacation. But the Captain's Club is open till 10. So if you miss Blue, well, right there beside Blue is Tuscan Grille. You can go into the Captain's Club. The other place I would go for breakfast sometimes was the Ocean View, because they're open even later. They're open till 11 for breakfast. And the selections in Ocean View, no matter what time of the day, were always varied. There's always plenty to eat. I did go in at dinner time one evening, and I noted that at least 2/3 of the stations were open. There was a station with, I think they were having German food that night. It was just, the whole station was German food. There was another station with hamburgers and hot dogs and salads and sandwiches. There was another station, of course, the pizza and the pasta. There was a whole dessert station open. So plenty of food. And I can't really make a judgment on how things are on other ships, but just what I know of Solstice, I didn't see any signs of any type of cutback other than, you know, a couple of stations were closed at dinner time. In fact, I'm going to give food a 4 out of a 5 rating. All the food across the ship was delicious. Next up is E for entertainment. And there was so much entertainment, and I was so glad to be able to take part in so much entertainment on board the ship. And I'll start with the 3 stage production shows. There was one on the second night of the cruise, there was one on the third or fourth night of the cruise, and then there was a stage production show on the final night of the cruise. The first one was a show called Broken Strings, and this show was really good. The second was a show called Amadeus. Amadeus is really wild. It's really random and weird, but it was still a really good show. I enjoyed it. And then the last night of the cruise was a show called Rock City, which was, of course, all those famous rock ballads, good rock music to end the cruise on, and a great production crew, great singers and dancers on board Celebrity Solstice. In addition to those 3 main stage production shows, they also had, I think, 3 or 4 guest performers on board the ship throughout the course of this cruise. There were a couple of singers that had shows in the main theater. There was a pianist who came and did a fantastic show one night. Plenty of entertainment, always live music to be found in the main atrium of the ship. In the ensemble lounge, they had a nightly musician in there. They also had special events in the main atrium throughout the cruise. One night it was the full moon party. Another night they had a night dedicated to music of ABBA. There was also silent disco, which was so much fun, and I met so many new friends at silent disco. So I'm gonna give entertainment on this cruise a solid 4 out of a 5 rating. Next up is P for ports, and this was my first time on the Mexican Riviera itinerary, and I don't think I've mentioned that yet. I probably should have said that up front. But yes, I was on the Mexican Riviera itinerary. It left from Los Angeles, and then we had one sea day, then we stopped in Cabo San Lucas. The next day we were in Mazatlán, and then the third day we were in Puerto Vallarta before 2 sea days back to Los Angeles. And I thought this itinerary was okay. I don't think it's anything I would go back and do again, but it was on my bucket list. It was one that I wanted to try. This is also a very chilly itinerary. Granted, I did sail in February of 2023, so during the winter months, but if you're looking for a warm tropical getaway in the middle of winter, the Mexican Riviera is not it. Because the first sea day, I think the temperature was like 60 degrees. It was very overcast and chilly when you went outside. No one was in the pool. And then the last sea day as well, as we were headed back to Los Angeles, very chilly. So wouldn't recommend it if you want to be in the pool, if you want to be in the beaches. Probably not the best itinerary for you. I will say that Cabo San Lucas was the highlight of the cruise. I actually went on a whale watching excursion and actually did a video on that. I've never seen more wildlife in a port ever before in my life than I did in Cabo San Lucas. It was amazing to see the seals in the water, to see the whales in the water. There were fish literally jumping out of the water everywhere. It is a beautiful place. Love the rock formations as you're entering the port. So highly recommend, if you've never been to Cabo, get on one of these itineraries so that you can go there. I actually didn't get off the ship at all in Mazatlán because of a little bit of confusion. The night before we called on Mazatlán, there was an announcement made on the ship that, you know, it's an industrial port that you arrive in, so you can't just get off the ship. You actually have to get on a bus and be taken, what myself and several people around me heard, 45 minutes away to the town. It was a 45-minute bus ride one way to the town. And I was like, that's a lot of time. That's an hour and a half of my day. Don't think I'm going to do that. But I hadn't done any research or homework. If I had, I would have known. They actually said 425, not 45. It wasn't just me. A lot of people I talked to were like, yeah, we heard 45 too. We didn't get off the ship. We didn't want to be on a bus for 45 minutes. And it actually wasn't even a bus. It was these little tractor-like things that were like hauling people. 4 to 5 minutes to the actual cruise terminal building, which was separate from the pier itself. So missed out on Mazatlán, but also just was nice to have a day on board the ship just to relax. So like I said, a solid itinerary. Really enjoyed those 2 sea days at the end just to relax on the way back to LA. But probably won't do this itinerary again. It was just one that I wanted to do, to mark off the bucket list, to try it out. But now I've sort of been there and done that. But was really glad I was able to do it. Also, I will say, because of ports, you know, cruising out of Los Angeles was so easy. We were at the World Cruise Terminal, a super fast embarkation process. I was early. I think I got there at like 10:20, and right at 11 o'clock I was boarding the ship. And I never stopped moving once I arrived, other than when I finally got to the waiting area and had to sit down. So really fast embarkation, really fast debarkation process as well there in the end. So for ports, I'm going to give a rating of 3.5 out of a 5. And finally, the S is for service. We're going to talk about the crew. And I have nothing to say except amazing service everywhere on the ship. I didn't have a single bad experience with service. I only had that one time in Blue where things were a little slow, but I'm not even going to complain about that. It was a busy morning. Things like that just happen in dining rooms sometimes, especially during the rush of breakfast. But service on board the ship was a solid 5. Actually, it was much more than a 5, but 5 is as high a rating as I give. I'll even go as far as to say that this was the best service I've ever had on a non-Edge series ship. You know, because I think the perception out there is, of course, they're going to put the best service on Celebrity Edge and Beyond and Apex, and certainly I've had some of the best service experiences on those ships. A little bit less so on Equinox and Summit when I sailed them, but on Solstice, it was just as good, if not even better, than the Edge series of ship service. So I was really happy to see that. Again, going in, I didn't know what to expect. I was worried it might not be as good a service as what I'm used to with Celebrity. Like I said, I've heard a lot of stories lately. A lot of people have been talking online. There's lacking in food, lacking in service, but service was top notch. The Celebrity cruise experience, most of the time, is always an exceptional one, because of the exceptional service. And that statement couldn't be truer on Celebrity Solstice. So with service getting a perfect 5 out of a 5 rating, that means my overall cruise experience on board Celebrity Solstice gets a 4.1 out of a 5. And that's my second best rating for a cruise yet. The only one that tops it was my Celebrity Apex experience to Israel back in October of 2022, and that was a 4.4 out of a 5. So close to being my best cruise experience. Yeah, that's how great this cruise was. Folks, if you get the opportunity to go on board Celebrity Solstice, she's going to be headed to Alaska this summer. This is the summer of 2023, and then after that in the fall, she's headed over to Asia. She's going to be in Thailand and Vietnam. So if you get the opportunity to sail on one of her itineraries, I highly recommend it. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. You're going to enjoy it. If you love the celebrity food, the celebrity service, the celebrity beautiful cruise ships, you're really going to enjoy Celebrity Solstice. And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to sail on her. And I'm so glad that you chose to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy it, go down below, give me a thumbs up. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I have more content to come from Celebrity Solstice. But thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next adventure.